Welcome to the Fantasy Flow podcast. We just finished week 15. We're previewing week 16. Andy, 3 more weeks to go until the NFL playoffs start. Fantasy playoffs have already started. I know we're super pumped about that. Andy, how was your luck this week? I know mine wasn't that good.
Yeah, good and bad. Lost a devastating matchup by less than a point in the playoffs, and then got into a couple playoffs and a couple other leagues. So I'm off to a rocky start, but I'm gonna finish strong here at the end.
All right, yeah, let's hope so, man. You and me both. I know both of us in different leagues have Kirk Cousins starting in a playoff matchup, and that Monday night game was absolutely yikes. You and I, just because of our fantasy football situations, we're plugged into that game. And I don't know about you, but just watching that offense do everything possible to avoid Kirk Cousins having to throw the ball, it was so infuriating. Am I right?
Oh yeah, that was like just this is the team that Kirk Cousins needed to get right against and just couldn't, right? They didn't want him throwing the ball. When he did, it was inaccurate. It wasn't all his mojo is gone, and it's infuriating from probably a Falcons perspective, and also when you need him to just score one more point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just checked, and the Falcons ran the ball literally twice as much as they threw the ball. They ran the ball 34 times. Cousins only attempted 17 passes. And that's some like 1960s stuff. That when you're doing that, there are huge problems. And we're very fortunate to be recording when we are on 12/17. They just announced, Andy, that Kirk Cousins is officially being benched this week in favor of Michael Penix Jr., our boy from UW, local hero. No, he's not local. He just played for like 1 year for the Huskies, but really likable kid, very talented dude, huge arm, and he's been sitting and learning, waiting in the wings this whole time. I was calling for this to happen last week. Andy, what was your reaction when you just heard that news?
Yeah, my first reaction was makes sense. I mean, I was telling my wife in the car today. There's probably only 3 or 4 quarterbacks' names that you don't bench when you're 5 games losing your 5 game streak. You throw 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions. Those names include Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, maybe one other, and any other quarterback is getting benched in that situation. So it makes total sense. And best of luck, Falcons. I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
lost for words, honestly.
Yeah. I would say that they made the change 1 week too late, but they did win that game because fortunately, it was against the Raiders who were having their own quarterback issues. I think their starting quarterback got hurt again. Desmond Ridder comes in, and it was just I don't know. I honestly think that the Raiders were probably the better team. The Falcons actually had 2 blocked punts. So, I mean,
Oh
it's
wow.
credit to the Falcons. But yeah, they got some short fields. They were able to capitalize, and they snuck out of there with a win. The Raiders were threatening to win the game with a Hail Mary at the last second. But
Right. Right.
Falcons, they got the win, and they have no more margin for error. And they're saying, "Hey, we're not doing that again. We're gonna throw out Michael Penix, and we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna live or die with this rookie." I think that's
Sure.
pretty wild, but I'm here for it.
Yeah.
More quarterback news. Let's go through all of these. I wrote them down because that was a huge theme that came out of Week 15. Was all these injuries. Starting off, our own Geno Smith, and we'll get to the Seahawks, but just real quick while we're talking news, Geno Smith injured his knee, left the game early in the third quarter, never came back in, even though he said he kind of wanted to. They ran some tests, no structural damage to his knee. He isn't practicing yet, but they're optimistic that he's going to play this week against the Vikings. Patrick Mahomes, he also left the game on Sunday. He got his ankle rolled up on, and Carson Wentz came in for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it looked like Patrick Mahomes was going to miss time. They were calling him week to week, and then news came out today on Tuesday that he practiced in full because that guy's not human. Like I don't know what it is, but yeah, he's made it through an entire playoff run with an injury just like this, where he said his ankles were hurt and he's like hobbling around the field and still make scrambling and doing stuff. I mean, honestly, not shocking. And then the last quarterback to get hurt, it was actually announced before the game. Jalen Hurts has a broken finger in his non-throwing hand. He had like some sort of cast on it or something. But clearly that's not affecting him because he was freaking spinning it. And the Eagles'
Right.
offense looked great. Even got A.J. Brown back involved in the game plan. So it was all good news for the Eagles. But just an interesting theme with these quarterbacks getting hurt and then non-quarterbacks getting hurt. T.J. Watt, star defensive player for the Steelers, he has an ankle sprain, and he's not practicing yet. They're calling it like a mild ankle sprain. I know the higher the ankle sprain, the worse it is. They kind of describe this as being somewhere in the middle. But man, I mean, absolutely critical game against the division rival Baltimore Ravens this week. And so right now he's questionable, but that's a huge storyline to follow. And then finally, the Detroit Lions with David Montgomery. He checks notes, tore his MCL, and he's done for the year. So that's huge news for the Lions, for fantasy football. I mean, that probably has the biggest impact just because we know for sure that he's not coming back at all. And, oh, by the way, the rest of the Lions defense got hurt this week. So.
Yeah. Did they ever? Yeah. Patrick Mahomes, he does not like to come out. I mean, we saw this with the Netflix series. He does not like to stay on the sideline. So you could tell how eager he was to come back into that game. It does shock me that he was a full participant. I think they should just rest him for a week and then continue on forward just to make sure nothing else seriously happens. It was great to see Jalen firing the football. I'm not really too worried about the Eagles whatsoever. And poor David Montgomery. I mean, how do you not cheer for that backfield of Detroit? Detroit as a whole, but especially that backfield. They're just such an easy backfield to cheer for in my mind, and it really sucks to see half of that team really go down.
Yeah, man. I mean, the Lions are like America's actual team. You know, they're like
Right.
everyone's second favorite team. Unless you're in Detroit, then they're your favorite team. And yeah, David Montgomery is like that, just lovable. Like you know, he's to them like Marshawn Lynch was to us. You know, because you just see him. He scores all the touchdowns. He puts his body on the line. He does the dirty work, and yeah, everyone loves him. And it sucks that he went down. Keeping the vibes low, let's move on to the Seahawks game.
Oh boy, yeah.
Man, that was rough. That was probably the worst Seahawks game of the year, and it has nothing to do with the Geno Smith injury. I mean, it was just. I'll set the table like this. So the Packers come into Seattle in the rain. The Packers win the coin toss. They choose to receive, which is abnormal, but they choose to receive, and then they proceed to run the ball down the Seahawks' throats, all the way down the field, score a touchdown, and it only got worse from there, and I'm not joking. Like, that is so embarrassing for the Seattle Seahawks. I hope they feel that way at least. And yeah, like, the offense couldn't get anything going, and then Geno Smith got hurt. Backup came in. He looked even worse than I expected. Andy,
Right.
what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah. I mean, we all knew this was going to be a Josh Jacobs game, and then sure enough, I'm screaming at the TV,
Yeah.
"Oh, give it to Josh Jacobs! Oh, give it to Josh Jacobs just one more time!" Like, the writing was on the wall, and the fact that we could see it from a mile away and the Packers were still able to do this, it just showed a lack of preparedness from the Seahawks on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how much to attribute it to coaching, but it seemed pretty obvious to us what the game plan was going to be for the Packers. The Packers were certainly confident in that game plan, right? Yeah, it was just couldn't have been easier for them, and that's pretty tough to think about. The Vikings now coming into Seattle next week. I just looked up the weather report. There's 100% chance of rain.
Oh boy. Oh my gosh. Well, your boy's about to get soaking wet because those seats are right at the drip line, and I was thinking about doing some type of costume, some type of theme going into the game, but man, if it's 100% chance of
Maybe
rain,
just
I
stick
don't
with a
know.
poncho. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, or do the costume and then the poncho last. I don't know. This
Yeah.
is. I hope Gino's back for Seahawks' sake, for my sake, for my sanity's sake. I mean, I think the biggest surprise from the Seahawks this year is how good the defense can be and also how bad we are at home. I mean, we're 3-5. If we lose this, we're 3-6 on the year at home. What are we doing here, 12s? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. That's well said. And we probably will lose. Just emotionally prepare ourselves. The
Right?
Vikings are absolutely rolling. They got another
Hmm.
win last night, and yeah, I hope Kenneth Walker comes back. Zach Charbonnet's looked all right, but yeah, Kenneth Walker should be back. Gino seems pretty 50-50 at this point, although I would probably bet that he does play.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll see. Huge question
We'll
mark
see.
there.
Yeah. Let's try to get dubbed. That's all I gotta say. Let's just do our best.
All right. Well, there was a lot of other good football being played across the league. Andy, tell me something that stood out to you this week. What's your overreaction for the? Let's stay in the NFC.
Sure, sure. I'm gonna say my overreaction is going to be you kind of hit on this last week. I'm doubling down. I'm gonna say that all the wild card teams in the NFC are going to be better than all the divisional winners in the NFC, including the Eagles, including the Detroit Lions. I
Sir,
mean,
calm down.
okay, okay, maybe not the Eagles, but man, there's obviously weaknesses in Detroit. Detroit might lose the number one spot. They might get kicked out of the division lead as well as the number one bye. Like, how huge would that be if Minnesota can overcome that? They have a tougher schedule than Detroit, but still, like, it's doable at this point. And I think, and we just saw how well the Packers can play, and like Washington is good too. I mean,
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
I just these wild card teams for the NFC are going to be probably all but one are going to be favorites in the wild card round.
yeah. No, I think that's totally accurate. Yeah, I wouldn't throw the number one seed in there, but besides that, I don't think it's an overreaction to say that, like, yeah, whoever wins the NFC West is probably going to get bounced. Whoever wins the NFC South is probably going to get bounced. And then, yeah, you'll probably have some sort of NFC North craziness with those three teams, right? So I don't know, man. Yeah, that's tough. And my NFC reaction from the weekend is very similar. Talking about that Bills Lions game, set a new record this year for highest scoring game. I believe it was 90 total points were scored in that game. Bills win 48-42. And I mean, man, I just want to. So this has nothing to do with my reaction, but I don't want to skip over it. we had some crazy quarterback performances this week, and this game had two of the top three. I'm talking about Josh Allen, who had a total of 430 yards and four touchdowns. Jared Goff had 507 total yards and five touchdowns. And then elsewhere, and it was against the Giants, who are like gasping their last breath at this point. But Lamar Jackson had 355 total yards and five touchdowns. And none of those quarterbacks turned the ball over. So it was just like crazy great offense. But the difference in this game between the Bills and the Lions was that the Bills actually can stop you sometimes on defense. The Lions could not. It was insane. The Lions defense, they have so many injuries. We talked about it last week, and it hasn't quite caught up to them yet. They managed to somehow beat the Packers, but when faced with an offense like the Bills, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was crazy, and even Dan Campbell knew it. That's why he did an onside kick at the beginning of the fourth quarter, because he was just like, I cannot give the ball back to the Bills. He's like, there's no mathematical way that we win unless we get an extra possession. And with the rule change of the kickoff, there's no such thing as a surprise onside kick anymore. And if you don't have the element of surprise, your odds of actually converting the onside kick is so low. I see you gave a thumbs down. Does that mean you disagreed with that decision?
Oh, terrible call in my mind. I get it. I get who your opponent is. I get where you are in the football game. There's 12 minutes left. You don't know if your defense could cause a turnover. You don't know if they could mishike the football. Like, there's so many. Why just give them the opportunity to score so close when you could kick off to them normally and pray that something else happens, that they mess up on their own, right? Like, I don't know. That was just such a bold take, such a terrible call in my opinion.
Yeah.
No matter the result.
Well, yeah. So he's thinking. I try not to be so results oriented with this, and I appreciate the just being real with yourself, the self scouting of knowing, okay, my defense cannot stop that offense. What am I going to do about it? He's thinking, well, what's the difference if I give them the ball at the 25 or the 30-yard line, as opposed to giving it to them at midfield? Not a big difference when you think about it like that. But the onside kick, the Bills take it and return it all the way to the 5-yard line. So
Dude,
that's
that was
just giving them a touchdown. So that sucks.
Yeah. That was close. I don't know if you saw that real time or a highlight or whatever, but it was actually like the kicker Bates. He actually picked a perfect kick for that one, and
Yeah, I
Matt
think you're right.
Collins just is a freak athlete and just jumped a little bit higher than the Detroit guy. I mean, you could see the Detroit player's hand about to reach up and grab that ball.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. All that to say, my overreaction is that the Lions are now perhaps fatally flawed as a team. Like,
Yes.
is this still a Super Bowl team? If you had to ask me right now, I'd say no, just based on what
I
we
don't
saw.
know.
But then Jared Goff is just absolutely killing it, and so is the rest of the offense. But they just lost David Montgomery. Like,
Yeah,
what?
they didn't have him for most of the game. Jahmyr Gibbs is a capable back. They still scored 42 points. They still put up over 500 yards of offense against one of the best teams in the league. Are they a Super Bowl team? I think they're right there on the fringe, but they're definitely an NFC championship contender in my mind. But I totally hear what you're saying. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if I've said this already on the podcast, but it seems like them and the Eagles are exactly opposite from last year. Eagles started going downhill really late in the year. Everybody saw the writing on the wall, like they can't compete this year, and sure enough, they get bounced in the first round. And Detroit just started surging last year at the very end. And now I feel like it's the exact opposite. I feel like I'm deja vu, but just switching just Freaky Friday a little bit.
Interesting, yeah. It is back-to-back weeks that the Bills defense has allowed 40 points, 40 plus points. So you
Right?
kind of got to look at
Right.
that side too, and
Yeah.
ask some questions there. But
Sure.
man, anyways, super interesting stuff. It feels wide open. Not only is the NFC North wide open, but all of the NFC feels wide open.
Yes.
Take us over to the AFC, will you?
Yeah, I'm gonna hop on this thing that we kind of created, you and me, this Bo Nix fan club, this wagon that we got going, and
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna rave about Bo Nix. My overreaction is that Bo Nix will be inserting his name into the greatest quarterback group next year. He's going to be in conversation with Josh Allen, with Lamar Jackson, with Patrick Mahomes, with Joe Burrow. His name will be next on that list next year. This guy, I mean, granted, he has a killer defense right now. The defense is just flying all over the field, but he looked rough at the beginning of this game, and he just did not care. He was just relentless out there, just fighting back, leaning onto his skills, leaning onto his coach, and it was just really impressive. And I'm seeing this, I'm like, CJ Stroud, who? Like, no, no, no. It's Bo Nix time, baby. Let's go. This is his rise, and next year it's just gonna go even further, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that you brought up CJ Stroud because like that's exactly what Stroud did last year, right? He won Rookie of the Year, and we thought, okay, CJ Stroud, like he's part of this next generation. He's right there with Burrow, and they're all behind Mahomes, obviously, but like, right there with Josh
Right?
Allen and everything. And yeah, Stroud. I haven't heard anyone talk about Stroud like on ESPN or my podcast or anything. Like it's so weird what's going on with him in his second year, just totally coming back down to earth. And Bo Nix, I mean, 3 interceptions this week, but 3 touchdowns as well. Yeah, he brought them to a win. The defense came up huge, pick six, a huge
Yep.
play that was a failed trick play on the part of the Colts, and I mean, yeah, that game was wild, but we'll talk about it here in just a bit because that has massive implications for the playoffs. That result, the Broncos beating the Colts. But yeah, no, I love what Bo Nix is doing. It's so rare to see rookie quarterbacks actually have postseason success. But we'll see. I think the secret sauce here is probably Sean Payton, and he was able to have a lot of postseason success with Drew Brees, and they have a great defense. So we'll see, man. I think sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably Sean Payton that we have to congratulate, and maybe he deserves Coach of the Year. Who knows? What about you?
It's so funny. There's like 10 great candidates for Coach of the Year.
Right?
Isn't that? I have no idea how they're gonna gift that award.
Right. Yeah. Split it up into thirds or something.
Seriously, yeah, I have no idea. So many unsuspecting teams are having good seasons, and teams that we thought were going to be good are having great seasons, like the Bills and the
Right.
Eagles. Yeah, anyways, one team that is having one of those surprisingly good years, but had a bad week this week. I want to talk about the Steelers. They were on the wrong side of that epic matchup between them and the Eagles this weekend. Last few Sundays, it's just been the Saquon Barkley show. And some of the Eagles wide receivers getting a little upset, throwing a little hissy fits. They weren't getting the ball enough. And what do? They come out and they do a bunch of play action. They make you think that Saquon's getting the ball, and instead Saquon's just being a decoy, and they're slinging the ball. And it worked. It worked like just as well. Like the Eagles pretty much cruised and they beat the Steelers, and I'm a little worried for the Steelers. And honestly, my overreaction from what I saw is that the Steelers won't win another game this season.
Wow. Coming in hot.
They're done, bro.
Wow. Wow. I love it. Oh my gosh. Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals.
That's the remaining
Wow.
schedule. Yeah, they need to go to
Wow.
Baltimore, and then they host the Chiefs, and then I think they host Joe Burrow and the Bengals.
Man, that is tough. That would be crazy for the AFC playoffs if they don't win another game. I'm going to call this an overreaction. I think they can beat the Bengals. I don't know if they can beat the Ravens. It really shows how much they rely on George Pickens. If he's not out there,
Yes,
it's
yes.
the Pat Fryermuth show. And if Najee can't take care of the football, they can't do anything else either. And their defense can only hold for so long, especially against a top tier team like the Eagles. And they're going against their next two games are against top tier teams with the Chiefs and the Ravens. So
Right.
yeah, man, you might be onto something. I'm gonna say it's an overreaction. I think they can at least beat the Bengals, but
Yeah, yeah. No,
that was good. That was a good one.
I like that you brought up George Pickens. That was the next player I was going to talk about. He's their wide receiver one. He's their alpha. He is the reason why they traded away Deontay Johnson mid-season, and now George Pickens is hurt. And against the Eagles, without either one of those guys, yeah, it's just like there's no one. Some guy named Calvin
Right.
Austin is leading them in receiving, along with Fryermuth, their tight end. Just not enough weapons for Russell Wilson against a competitive team. And they have nothing but competitive teams left on their schedule. Like,
Yeah.
the Steelers do not have what it takes to win a shootout, right? Like we talk about Mike Tomlin and the kind of games he wants to win. He wants to win those like 16-9 games. You know, if the other team scores 20 plus points, I don't see the Steelers winning that game. But we'll see.
Sure.
And George Pickens, he could come back. And when he comes back, I don't know if he'll be at 100%, but yeah, just an interesting thing that I noticed in the schedule is that they got a rough stretch. And another thing, like I said, they need to go to Baltimore, and I love what the Ravens are doing, and I did not like what I saw from the Steelers, and Ravens were in heavy consideration for one of my game picks this week, but the Ravens are 6-point favorites. I thought, wow, 6-point favorites after the Steelers already beat the Ravens this year. So that's I thought that
Yeah.
line was like pretty accurate. I'm not picking the Ravens to cover that. I'm just saying that Vegas sees what I'm seeing, that the Ravens are
Sure.
clearly a cut above the Steelers right now.
Sure. Yeah, they did beat them only 18-16. I know it is a win, but
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well, that was when
George.
Justin Tucker missed 3 kicks or something. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and as it sits right now, Pickens was a non-participant in Tuesday's practice. It's a Tuesday.
Okay. Okay.
Not much to talk about, or not much to dive into on that, but still, the fact that he's not participating and it's the beginning of the week doesn't bode well. So yeah, we'll see for the future.
All right. It's that time of the week, that time of the show where we need to eliminate another NFL team from the playoffs. Last week, I said, boy, this is the worst week. I don't want to eliminate any team because oh man, they all have so much potential. Fast forward 1 week, all those teams that were like on the bubble lose. And now I'm fine cutting like 2 or 3 teams that we haven't cut yet. Like I've lost my patience with some of these terrible teams. Andy, how about you walk us through it?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think honestly, I thought the Colts were going to lose, but I had a lot of faith in Miami winning against the Texans. I don't think the Texans are that good, and Miami seemed to be going on a roll. So I was excited for Miami, and for them to just come out flat. Tua just have like probably his worst game of the year. That was tough, and I'm going to lead it off. I'm going to throw it back to you, and I'm going to say Miami deserves to get cut this week.
Yeah. Obviously, I was confident in the Dolphins as well. They were one of my game picks from last week that they would cover the spread. They did not win. They didn't cover anything. It was just a sad performance. The Texans didn't even do a whole lot. They just threw like a lob to 6'5" Nico Collins in the end zone. They did that twice, and that was enough to beat the Dolphins. It's kind of like, okay.
Right.
Very disappointing from Tyreek Hill. Disappointing from Tua. Their run game is absolutely putrid. I mean,
Hmm.
we'll get to some of these other teams because it's important to talk about, but like honestly, the Dolphins are at the top of my list, and yeah, I am stalling because I want to pull up a specific stat. And all right, here we go. The rushing for the Dolphins against the Texans this last week, Raheem Mostert ran the ball 6 times for 8 yards, and Achan ran the ball 12 times for 40 yards. So
Wow.
less than 4 yards a carry. Raheem Mostert obviously less than 2 yards a carry. It was just sad. Tua 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Very just the total opposite of this heater that he was on before that. And credit to the Texans defense, I guess. But yeah, I'm ready to eliminate them. Um, the Colts should be mentioned that the Texans, with that win, clinched their division. So the Texans have won the NFC South. The Colts cannot win that division anymore. And I don't think they can make the playoffs. I mean, mathematically they can make the playoffs, but
Right.
their only hope right now is that the Chargers lose out and that the Colts themselves win out. Um, the Colts have a very soft schedule, but I
Hmm.
still don't think that's realistic. I think next week or the week after, it's just a matter of time for the Colts. Um,
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. I didn't realize that Denver was, or no, the Chargers are 2 games ahead. Yeah, so the minute the Chargers win one of their next 3 games, the Colts are eliminated. So
exactly.
yeah, I and the Colts have an easier schedule, but so really that's an interesting point. Really, we need to stay focused on how the Chargers do for the remainder of the year.
Yep. Yep. So we officially eliminate the Miami Dolphins. You are done.
You gone.
All right. So the Colts are the last team on the AFC outside looking in on the NFC. We still have Bucks slash Falcons, and we have the Rams slash Seahawks. Right. So that's what
Hmm.
still needs to shake out over there.
And the Commanders. I mean,
That's true. I mean, yeah, the Commanders could lose out too and miss
right.
out. So yeah,
The Commanders they play the Eagles, the Falcons with at least Penix playing 1 game, and then the Cowboys. And the Cowboys aren't going down sleeping. Like they're giving it everything they got. So
Cooper
I don't
Rush is
know. That's a
scrappy. Yeah.
right. Like that's a tough. Those are a tough 3 game. Maybe with the Falcons. At least tough 2 games, and both divisional games. Both opponents that know the Commanders. I'm definitely keeping my eye on the Commanders because I'm a little worried. They did get the win, but they just I don't know. Maybe because they're not flashy, they just don't look. They just don't look like a playoff team, in my opinion.
No, I mean they were lucky not to lose to the Saints this last week.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
Saints
that's
scored a
true.
touchdown with zeros on the clock. Could have gone for
Yep.
one. There's the one extra point to send it to overtime. They chose not to. Chose to go for two. Didn't get it. Game over. Um, but yeah, man, Commanders so lucky to escape with a win, and
Yeah,
that win could prove the difference between playoffs and no playoffs. So yeah.
that's true. That's true. Good point. Good point.
All right. While we're eliminating, let's go over to our Guillotine Listener League and update everyone on what's going on over there. Want to give a shout out, like we always do every week, to our fallen comrade. This week's a little different because we are in the money. And so it is it's a little somber, but it's also a celebration, right?
Sure, sure.
My buddy, my coworker Garrett, also known as Blue Bomber 12, he has been chopped this week. His entire team was a no-show. He suffered a loss, very unlike your loss in your dynasty league. It was very similar to my dynasty league in that he lost by 80 points to all the other teams. He had the lowest scoring team. It was 80 points fewer than all the other teams. Just absolutely crazy. The entire team didn't show up. Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, probably the worst offenders there.
Right. I mean, even if his team did show up, they would have had to hosted the damn party at by the rate this is going.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like if both those players scored 30 points, like he still would have been out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the fact I go to Marissa, I go to my wife, and I say I have 183 points, and I'm projected the next lowest. Like that is insane.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So all three remaining teams scored 180 plus points this week. And the highest score back in week 1 was 122 points. The
Wow. What a
lowest score
stat.
was 63. So,
What a stat.
yeah, that's just the team building, the roster building that happens with guillotine leagues as you reduce the size of the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun looking at all these teams and yeah, so many great players. I mean, just an embarrassment of riches was just dropped to waivers that you guys will all get to fight over. Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, Brees Hall, Alvin Kamara.
Justin Jefferson.
Ooh, yeah, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, the fact that he had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson on his fantasy team and got knocked out. I mean, that's just really unfortunate.
You can't, yeah, I mean, you can't really even blame him. Like, I don't,
No,
it's just other players had a big week and those players didn't. So,
right.
moment of silence for Garrett.
The tribe has spoken.
Then there were 3.
Oh, baby.
Congrats on making the podium, Andy. Holding it down for the fantasy flow. I appreciate it.
You know me.
All right, man. Let's flip the page. Look forward to week 16. This is a good week. And the NFL, they know what they're doing sometimes. They backloaded all these divisional matchups. And I got 3 divisional games that are just so perfect this week. Starts with Thursday night. We got the Broncos at Chargers. Both teams currently sitting in those wild card spots. One of them's got to win. One of them's got to lose. I'm excited for that. Just for all the storylines, for the Bo Nix of it all. The Jim Harbaugh of it all. Andy, what game really stood out to you this week?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the next one you were going to bring up is the Steelers Ravens. We talked about that a little bit. We got hopefully George Pickens coming back, Russell Wilson versus Lamar. Lamar is doing everything he can to say, I deserve the MVP. I deserve the division title. So that's going to be a great matchup. Another little sneaky one is the Bucks and Cowboys. We've been talking about the Bucks these last couple weeks, and it's a Sunday night. It's in Dallas. All the lights are on in Texas for that one. And Baker has just been, we didn't highlight him going over last week's game, but he deserves all his flowers after that game. I mean, he just came out a little flat and then just kept on ripping it through. Cowboys do not want to go down quiet. And I think this is going to be, it's an NFC matchup. Like it definitely matters for the Bucks. It feels like it matters for the Cowboys, even though it doesn't. Like it's going to be a good matchup, I think.
I cannot believe that I omitted him from that stat that I led the show with. All those quarterbacks just having outlandish days. Baker completing 82% of his passes, throwing for 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Just totally stomped the Chargers this last week. Mm-hmm. That was probably the most surprising result of the week, in my opinion. Like,
yeah. Oh, definitely.
Bucks looked so back. Mike Evans looked so back, and the Chargers.
Yeah, the Chargers. They look like they don't know what they're doing on offense without J.K. Dobbins. Like he must be their messiah, or they're like they're ever one, because they can't do anything without this guy.
Yeah. The other divisional matchup this weekend, Eagles at Commanders. So we talked about how the Commanders barely got away with one last week. Well, now they host maybe the best team in football, riding
Yeah,
what 11 game win streak.
it's 10 wins, 10 wins since their bye week, basically, which is
Gotcha.
just
Okay.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah, that's insane. So, some very interesting matchups, tons of playoff implications. We only have 3 weeks left in the regular season, and let's talk some fantasy football because 3 weeks left in the regular season, but we are right in the thick of it for the fantasy playoffs. Andy, can you get us started with someone that you are flowing into your lineup?
yeah, sure. I'm gonna speak towards this wide receiver, probably kind of under your radar, and he really shouldn't be. Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. This guy goes out and catches touchdown passes. Mac Jones is okay at football. Trevor Lawrence is mediocre at football, but they know how to get it to this guy, and this guy stays healthy. Nobody on the Jaguars can stay healthy, I seem like, but this guy can, and he gets rewarded by touchdown passes.
Yeah, I heard Mac Jones described as the Grayson Allen of the NFL. And I kind of
boy.
love that because he's frustratingly competent at times. You know, it's really easy to hate
Right.
him, but no, he does enough, and he loves getting those assists, passing that ball to Brian Thomas Jr. So
Yep.
yeah, I like that call. I actually don't have a wide receiver on my list of players I'm flowing into my lineup. I'm going quarterback. And I'm flowing in Jared Goff. And by the way, all players that I'm flowing into my lineup are players I'm actually flowing into my lineup this week. So I have some options. If you can, I'm not saying start Jared Goff over one of the top tier options for fantasy football, but I'm saying don't be afraid of this matchup going into Chicago and playing the Bears. I don't know what the Chicago Bears are really playing for anymore, and Jared Goff and that Lions offense, not only are they on a heater, but with their defensive struggles, it's like the Lions have to score to win games. Like every game from
Right.
here on out might just be a shootout just based on the personnel that they have on defense. So I like that for fantasy football for sure. I like just Jared Goff is in an absolute rhythm, and yeah, I think he's a great option this week.
Yeah, and this news of Montgomery being out for the year actually boosts Jared Goff's numbers because that means he's probably going to pass it a lot more. He's not going to have that Montgomery guy to steal those touchdowns. He's going to be like, hey, I'll just pass it to St. Brown. I'll just pass it to J-Mo. Hey, Laporta, I haven't seen you in a little bit, you know?
That's a great point, especially on the goal line. I mean, Montgomery was so good on the goal line. Now those
Right.
runs up the middle might become passes.
Right, right. I'm going to go quarterback. I'm going to go Cooper Rush. Like I said, Dallas is not going down quiet. They are fighting. You said it. He's a scrappy guy. He knows how to get it to his playmaker. And I say that as a single playmaker, CD Lamb. So,
Right.
I think he's a good, viable start. He's going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, generally pretty good for the quarterback for fantasy purposes. It's at home. I mean, it's under the lights. I like Cooper Rush this week.
Are we really starting him though in your fantasy playoffs?
I think I'm in one league where I've been streaming quarterbacks all season, and I'm finished number 4.
Okay.
I think I'm reaching for Cooper Rush.
I love
can't
it.
believe I'm saying that out loud, but yeah, I think I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very sound process there. It's a great matchup. And yeah, they looked good against the Panthers. You nailed that pick from last week. You picked the Cowboys to cover. Do you have a running back that you're flowing in?
Yeah, I got a running back. His name is Jerome Ford. I'm sure he's a big waiver wire pickup with the Nick Chubb news of breaking his foot, I believe.
Yeah, so
And
sad. I should have included him in that rundown of players that got hurt. How can we forget Nick Chubb?
yeah, hate to see it, but at the same time, the Browns have been kind of boo-boo anyway. So, but no, this is Jerome Ford's time. He sparked at the very beginning of the year when he was given that single role, and I think he's going to capitalize on this next opportunity again, moving forward, going against the Bengals. Bengals defense is not that great, and he's going to run through him, I believe.
That's a great pick. Yeah, it's a great matchup, and he should get everything. So yeah, that's a good one there. I'm dipping my toes into the tight end waters. Look, tight ends are gross. There's probably like three that are must starts at this point. What, like Trey McBride, Jonnu Smith? I don't know. Is there a third? Yeah,
Mark
yeah,
Andrews.
yeah. I can see that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm throwing Dalton Kincaid into the mix. Okay, he
Whoa.
missed a lot of games, and last week was his first week back from recovering from injury, and he looked good. He caught, I don't know, something like 5 for 50. Not great for fantasy, but as far as tight ends go, it's okay. I want every piece of this offense that I can get, and at tight end, it's gross. So yeah, if you don't have one of those guys that you just feel like are locked and loaded, yeah, I would love to start Dalton Kincaid against the Patriots, who are just dead in the water. So yeah, give me
Right.
any piece of this offense that I can.
Yeah, he got 7 targets, 4 catches for 53 yards. I mean, he was tied for the most targets
Sign
in
me
that
up.
game. So, yeah, I'm with you. Sidebar: is Ty Johnson the best Bills ball catcher on that team? I'm just throwing it out
He
there.
was on
Just watch a
Sunday.
game.
Yeah.
Watch a game. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't know, but yeah, he's crazy. He's so good, and it's really annoying.
Do we need
I'm
to
gonna
scout this
go.
guy? Is he a free agent? What's the deal?
Yeah, he deserves to be starting on every team because he's that good.
Okay. I love it.
Well, I was gonna go flowing out of my lineup. I was gonna go Kirk Cousins, and now with this news,
Well, hey, the Falcons
I
feel the
get
same. Yeah.
yeah,
They
exactly.
float him
I
out of their
guess
lineup.
don't if you have any temptation to trust Penix, don't. I mean, I feel like that's pretty obvious, but yeah, just wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a lame one, but that's what I'm going with. I'm passing it over to you.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, the news just broke, so you can't like redo
Yeah,
all your notes and prep.
yeah.
Player, I'm flowing out of my lineup. Basically all Chiefs, except for probably Isaiah Pacheco. I think they'll probably lean on the run game more. Either Mahomes doesn't play this week or he plays with a bum ankle. Either way, they're going up against the Texans. That's a tough defense. I just don't trust any of the options.
Really?
It's just a
Yeah,
gross.
that's
It's a gross matchup, and most of them disappoint you anyways. So, I just don't know
sure.
who's going to play quarterback. Yeah, I'm flowing most Chiefs out of my lineup.
What would you say? What would be the other Chief that you would start if Patrick Mahomes does play?
Besides Isaiah Pacheco,
Besides Pacheco, yeah. Are you leaning more like would you start Patrick Mahomes if he plays? Like you could use him as the other KC player.
no,
No. Okay.
I don't know. I guess give me Kelsey,
Yeah, that's an easy one.
but I don't know. Like him and Dalton Kincaid are like basically a toss up. If Mahomes plays, I'll probably start Kelsey. I'll probably go that way. But yeah, like
Sure.
Kelsey got 4 catches for 27 yards this last week.
Yikes. Yeah.
I mean,
That's
what are
that's
we
not
doing?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. A quarterback that is going to be starting on their respective team that I am flowing out is CJ Stroud. CJ who? Yeah, I mean, last week was a joke of a game from him. I felt like the entire offense. I mean, Joe Mixon did a little bit there towards the end, but the passing game is just non-existent for this guy. And where's Tank Dell? Where's I know Dalton Schultz. What's his name?
They're tight end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I know Dalton Schultz got hurt and they didn't have Cade Stover, but like what is there's other pass catchers on the or yeah, there's other receivers on this team. Like what's going on? And so I'm flowing CJ Stroud out. He's going against the Chiefs, really great defense. It's in Arrowhead. I'm not banking on Houston at all during this game.
Yeah, that's a great call. I almost put Tank Dell in here. I like Nico Collins. He's a must start, so it doesn't really apply to him. But yeah, not looking good for the Texans this week. A player that I'm flowing out of my lineup, and this is going to sound pretty controversial, but I'll explain. I'm flowing out Jerry Jeudy from my lineup.
Whoa.
And he's going up against the Bengals, one of the best matchups you could have as a wide receiver. But I'll tell you why, is because they just announced today that the Browns are no longer starting Jameis Winston at quarterback. They're benching him, and they're starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think he's a second-year guy out of UCLA. Hardly any starting experience. He's played half a game earlier this year. I think Deshaun Watson got hurt. He stepped in, threw 2 picks. This guy can't play. And so I just can't play Jerry Jeudy in the playoffs knowing that his quarterback can't play. And I mean, you just mentioned Jerome Ford as a guy that you are flowing into your lineup. I like that. I think they're going to lean on the run game heavily. But man, like, there are lots of other options that I would prefer this week. I was talking with some of my coworkers. We were throwing out names like Jalen Coker, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like just guys who have a chance to put up just one big play. But like with this offense with DTR, that's gross.
I don't know, man. He got 14 targets last game, and that was with DTR coming in a little bit. So that's tough. Jerry Jeudy has been like the late season savior for some of these teams. It's going to be tough for them to say, no, I'm taking him out after all he's done for me. So
all right. Well, let's compromise, because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about last week with Malik Neighbors. He was a player that I was flowing out of my lineup last week, Malik Neighbors, and he actually had a great fantasy day this last week in PPR formats, because he was catching over and over again these 2-yard passes, screen passes that wouldn't go anywhere, and he just accumulated his way to a good fantasy day. So let's, if you're into PPR, you have my permission to start Jerry Jeudy. Otherwise, no, you got to blow him out.
Fair enough.
All
Fair
right.
enough. The last group I'm going to go with is the Saints running backs. Kamara got pretty banged up. I don't know if he's going to play or not. It's kind of trending that he's going to play. It doesn't matter. They're going against the Packers in Lambeau on Monday night. No, don't fall into this trap. Don't start Kamara. Don't start any of his backups. No, this team, they don't know what they're doing. It's a train wreck. The quarterback, the offensive play calling, like, all of this is just so weird, and it's just going to end up being garbage time points, and probably not to, I'm just banking, probably not to Kamara. Why would they throw him out there if he's hurt? Like, why would you ruin or potentially hurt your best player even more?
Yeah, they gave him a contract extension mid-season. You might be onto something there. I don't like it, but you might be onto something there. Hey, just wanted to jump in here real quick to remind you all about our partnership with BetStamp. If you're ready to take your sports betting to the next level and you want to support our show, we highly recommend signing up for your next sportsbook through the show's Sign Up Expert link in the description. This will allow you to take advantage of many new user offers available. And don't forget to bet responsibly by tracking all of your bets and getting yourself the best odds through the BetStamp app. Back to the show! All right, last segment, Fantasy Flow 4-pack. We got game picks against the spread for Week 16. Here they are. I'm starting it off with our boy Bo Nix. I got his back. Vegas doesn't have his back. I got his back. Broncos plus 2.5. They're underdogs? Are you kidding me? Against the Chargers? They just laid an egg against the Bucks? Oh my goodness. Give me the Broncos. They're going to win both sides of the line of scrimmage. Bo Nix is going to outperform Justin Herbert. This is easy. And I get 2.5 points. Come on.
Easy money, baby. Let's go.
All right, how about you?
I'm going with the Jaguars. The line is all over the place. They're going against the Vegas Raiders. It does, like, Yeah, the line is plus, the line is minus, doesn't matter. Jags are winning this game handily. Doesn't matter what the point spread is at the end of the day. I don't know what Las Vegas casinos are thinking because Vegas is definitely losing this one.
That's an interesting wrinkle, yeah. Yeah, the Falcons looked so bad on Monday Night Football, and they still beat the Raiders by 6 points. The Raiders are miserable. The Raiders are competing with the Patriots right now for the number 1 overall pick, and the Jaguars are desperately trying to win for some reason. Mac Jones is trying to play his way into quarterback competition next year, trying to save the coach's job. Yeah, a lot of people on that team have a lot to play for.
What's your next pick?
My next pick, it's one of those divisional matchups we previewed earlier. I'm talking about the Eagles-Commanders. I'm taking the Eagles to cover 3.5 points. I know it's a divisional matchup. Things can get weird. I've gotten these wrong before in the past, but I just look at 3.5 points, and I think that's not enough. That's not enough. The Commanders aren't playing well, and the Eagles are absolutely rolling. Give me the Eagles to win by 4 or more. That seems like a pretty easy task, but famous last words.
I agree. I mean, the Commanders do have Dan Quinn. They have played each other already this year, so they are divisional opponents. But Saquon, I mean, like you said earlier, if it's not Saquon, it's Jalen Hurts. If it's not Jalen Hurts, it's the defense.
A.J. Brown,
it's A.J. Brown. Yeah, it's like they're just such a complete team.
I'm
all about that.
Yeah, thank you. And I cannot get enough Cooper DeJean highlights. These highlights just keep going around the internet. This kid just flying all over the field, making huge tackles. I love the Eagles this week, but if I could have, I would have picked the team that you picked here with our last Fantasy Flow 4-pack. Hit us with it, Andy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick the Minnesota Vikings to cover the -3 points against the Seahawks, which is crazy to me. Seahawks have been terrible at home. Maybe no Geno. Geno or no Geno, I think Minnesota wins this game pretty handily. I guess the weird saving grace is the rain. That's kind of why the point spread is based off of, because if this was in Minnesota, oh gosh, this should probably be a 6 or 7 point spread, I think.
I just want Kenneth Walker back, and I want us to run the ball and control time of possession, make smart, short, intermediate throws. The point spread is suspiciously close, makes me think that Geno is going to play. But I don't care whether he plays. I mean, that's just not enough points. What, Vikings?
No.
Vikings win by more than 3.5, 2.5, wherever you can find it. They're such a good team. And I think there's just fatigue, people not wanting to give Sam Darnold his dues, really give him the props that he deserves. And the spread should be way more than that.
Probably the most unspoken about 12-2 team in the last 5, 6, maybe ever years. Yeah.
I talked about him last week. And
but not us.
You know when we'll talk about them is week 18 when they play the Lions. And I imagine that game's going to be for the division crown, maybe even for the NFC crown, depending on how it shakes out.
How is that not the Sunday night game at that point?
Oh yeah, it'll be in prime time no matter what time slot it's in, because that's going to be the game of the week and the last week of the regular season. But
Sure.
All right. Well, there you have it. Those are our 4 picks. Last week we went 2-2. This week 4-0. I think. ...
I think so too.
All right, this was fun. Good luck to everybody out there in your fantasy playoffs. Andy, good luck, my brother. And
good luck to you too.
Yeah, we'll see you here next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a ton for making it to the end of the episode. You're a real one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's a free, easy way to support the show, and it really helps us out. And leave us your comments down below if you're on YouTube, or send in your questions at thefantasyflowpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.